Do 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 do. Da 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 da. Dee 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 dee. Do 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 do. Why Disney remakes need to stop. Hey, howdy, hey, people of the internet. This is Wolfman 407 Dash. Thought to do this in a different location in my flat today because today we're talking about Disney remakes, and I can't for the life of me remember how many remakes they've done and what kind of remakes they've done. So, yeah. I'll start by saying how I feel about about them generally. I don't like the approach Disney are going with it because it's coming across as very aggressive, like they're trying to make more and more of these every year, and not really sort of thinking, actually, is this really what the fans want? Do fans really want to see a new take on the films that we've all grown up to know and love? I mean, even though a lot of people have an issue with that speech in the Oscars, not last year, but I think the year before, about the animation thing, there is some truth to that because they did say that people do watch these animated films over and over and over again. Not just children, though. We've talked about that already, so I won't go into detail about that. But anyway, not just children, families, adults like me, and everything. So, yeah. I just don't think they're necessary, and honestly, if they want to make a remake, they should only do so if there's, like, demand for it by fans, and if people are actually ready and willing to do it. Like, I don't seem to recall any sort of film that, in my opinion, actually deserves a remake. Lots of films I've seen, I think, are really good and don't deserve any remakes or whatever. So I don't really know why Disney are thinking, let's do it. Let's do a remake. Anyway, let's go through each one. So I've got a list open on my computer up here. So the first one is The Jungle Book. So The Jungle Book's had 3 remakes by Disney. It was the last in its animated form. It was the last film that Walt Disney worked on before he died, and most people do remember it quite well because it did feature the Beatles in there as the Eagles, some iconic music and stuff, and the voice actor of Winnie the Pooh played Car, the snake, in that film, and most people still have fond memories of it. However, the things that people don't like about that film, believe it or not, is the fact that it doesn't have much of a plot or a story. It does have a plot and a story, but it just kind of goes a bit too far away from the original book. And since then, there's been like at least 3 remakes by Disney. So the first one came out in... Hold on. When did you come out? 1994. Pretty much had nothing to do with the original's film. It was just a completely brand new take on the whole story and so forth. And starred John Cleese as well, of all people. And it had sort of like Tarzan vibes to it. I'm not sure if other people thought that, but to me, that version of Jungle Book had some Tarzan vibes. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good take on the story. The second remake I have never seen, and the fact that it was released direct-to-home media by Disney kind of tells me that it might not be good, because Disney, as far as I can remember, have a long history of not being that great at making sequels. I know some of you might be thinking, but what about their assets, Pixar, Marvel and all that? Well, that's because they do the films themselves. Pixar do their films, Marvel do their films, Lucasfilm do their films, Fox and all that do their films. But Disney themselves, without any of those companies, just don't do like sequels very well, at least in my opinion anyway. So yeah, the second Jungle Book remake, never seen, probably never will, so let's leave it at that. Next remake from Jungle Book is 2016. This was the one made by Jon Favreau, and I really enjoyed this one. it felt like the original film in almost every way. You could hear like either glimpses of the original songs or people doing new takes on the original songs. I think Christopher Walken's "I Want to Be Like You" cover was funny, intentionally or otherwise. It was really funny, and I think in that one they did really well with it because they did actually give the film a bit more story and plot compared to the original film, which I think is a really good thing. It's probably the only Disney remake that I know of that's actually the best. That's actually the one that's done really well. But of course, this came out during the early days of when they were actually doing these remakes. So, yeah, enough said about that. Okay, moving on to 101 Dalmatians. So this was, I think, a film that Walt Disney was aware of, but didn't exactly do much with it. And it's based on a book, like Jungle Book was. But Disney decided to do their own take and base it all in London. And of the remake it's had, the remake that starred Glenn Close in it, that was good. I like that they decided to not like give the sort of dogs and animals make them talk, which is a bit of a for people that like to watch live action stuff with animals in it. And I think they did well with that film. The only issue I do have, and there is like one issue, is that it's in London, and last I checked, raccoons are not local to the UK. They've never been a UK based animal, so I don't really see why they're here. I just don't know. Anyway, the sequel, 102 Dalmatians, technically doesn't count as a remake, but does sort of continue the story. I just don't know if it feels like it's needed. I mean, it's great to see Glenn Close again, and I get that they tried to go all out with the stunts and all that, and just sort of make out that she's trying to do her plan again, but a little differently. I just don't like it. There's a bit too much CGI. I mean, yeah, there was a bit of CGI in the original film, but not too much. But this one's like a bit full on with the CGI, and it's kind of coming across as a bit fake to me. Granted, it did come out in 2000, which was a bit of a weird time for CGI anyway, with live action stuff, not anywhere else. So I don't know. And then Cruella, which was an origin story for obviously Cruella de Vil. I really liked that. It did have the problems that the remakes had, but it wasn't actually too bad. I think the one thing I did enjoy about that one was Emma Thompson and whoever the person that actually plays Cruella. I'm gonna find out. Oh yeah, Emma Stone. I like it when they were locking horns. I thought that was great, and I love the soundtrack and I love the fashion designs. But of course, it being a film about Cruella, of course, there's going to be a lot of fashion involved, and I'm actually quite pleased that they did get an award for best hair and makeup. So that's good. Okay, so moving on to Alice in Wonderland. As far as I know, Walt Disney wasn't too involved with this one either. And of the animated films, this was one that some people thought they could do more of, but they never did. Like, it was probably the first and only animated film Disney ever made where it's never had any direct-to-home media sequels or whatever. And also Alice is not a Disney princess, but of course she's not the only one that's been opted out for being a Disney princess. The only time she's actually the only time that she's ever close to being considered a princess is in Kingdom Hearts, where when it turns out that she's one of the original 7 princesses of Hearts, until Kingdom Hearts 3, where they change it up again. So yeah, so the Alice in Wonderland film, I don't consider that a remake. Even though it's got the name, it's not, in my opinion, a remake. It's just name only. The only way I would say it's a remake is if it was directly like the original film. but it's not. It's actually a continuation of the story from the books. So it starts. So yeah, because everything that's happened in the everything that's happened in Alice in Wonderland has already happened. She comes back to this world, but instead of Wonderland, it's Underland, and yada yada yada. Most of you have seen it, and I think it's all right. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's all right for a Tim Burton film. And for Tim Burton, I'd say it's a typical Tim Burton film because it's a weird, wacky fantasy world, and of course you got Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, who are his most frequent collaborators, and also Danny Elfman as well doing the music. Okay, that one had a sequel, Alice Through the Looking Glass, which I didn't think was great. I like Sacha Baron Cohen in a lot of different things, and he is another person that has collaborated a lot with Tim Burton, after his Borat days. But, yeah, it's not one I'm particularly keen on. But I do like the Pink song at the end. So, there's that. So Fantasia is the next one. Now, Fantasia is an interesting one because it's not exactly a sort of one film with one story and all that. It's basically like a collection of short films, but with the sound effects and all that replaced with just classical pieces. It's had two animated films, which are both really good. They haven't done too well at the box office though, because I don't think there were some people that aren't too keen on them, which is understandable. But there have been a few films that have come out since those two that are based on different segments. So the first one is The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which I've seen. This was made by the same production company that worked on Parts of the Caribbean, Jerry Bruckheimer's films, and I don't remember too much of it other than it had Nicolas Cage in it, and it did have the sort of famous sequence from the original segment, so it is in there. But yeah, I just don't remember too much of it other than Nicolas Cage was in it, and the guy who played what was it? Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, which is from a completely separate studio. Now there was another one. Nutcracker and the Four Realms as well, which although it does feature elements from the Fantasia films, I don't consider it a remake as such of a segment from that film. Yes I do, because there is a segment in Fantasia 2000 which features the Nutcracker. So yeah, okay, it is sort of a remake, but I like the production design in that, but I think elements of that film could have been done better. I know it didn't do too well at the box office, and was one of the biggest flops of all time. So yeah, there's that one. Okay, moving on to Sleeping Beauty. This, to my knowledge, was the first time a Disney animated film was shot in widescreen. And from what I remember, I think I did enjoy it. It had a Disney princess, Princess Aurora, and featured one of the most iconic Disney villains of all time, Maleficent, which has since appeared in all sorts of different media. And I think the remake that they went for was actually a good attempt. Now, a lot of people might be thinking Maleficent's not really a remake of Sleeping Beauty, and to be fair, it doesn't feel like a remake, but it's disguised as a remake, only because it's following the plot of Sleeping Beauty, but with some roles reversed. So Maleficent's actually the main character, and everything's told from the perspective of her. And the main villain this time is the king instead of her. And yeah, it just plays out a little differently. The sequel, as far as I'm aware, Mistress of Evil, which I have seen, I don't remember much of it, and I heard it wasn't that great. But I will give Disney credit for going with the sort of villainous approach by making a Maleficent film, even though it was seen as a remake when people actually go to see it. So yeah. Next, Cinderella. Cinderella I think that was Disney's return to form back in the day, because they really struggled during the war, because in fact many studios struggled during the war because there was a world war going on, and that film actually helped them get back on top in a way, and to this day, it's still well regarded as one of their all-time favorite films. Now the remake came out, and it was directed by Kenneth Branagh, who most of you know as Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and he's also directed a lot of films, including the first Thor film and many takes on Shakespeare's plays. And his take on Cinderella is good in a way. I feel it's a bit too happy, but it's okay. And I like that they just decided to do just the story as it is and just leave the musical numbers till the credits. So in a way, that's kind of implying that Disney did allow him to have his own vision to it and not be like a copy and paste of the original film. It does kind of feel like a copy and paste of the original film, just without the musical numbers, but hey, it is what it is. Next is Beauty and the Beast. Everybody knows Beauty and the Beast. It's one of the most iconic films of all time. It's actually the first time an animated film, as far as I know... No, hold on. It's one of the few animated films that's been nominated and or won Best Picture at the Oscars. And was actually the first time the Oscars actually considered having an animation category in there, just so animation gets the recognition that it deserves, because they still frown upon it. But enough about that. The Beauty and Beast remake is a copy and paste of the original film. There are stuff they do expand on, like what happened, like the age of the beasts, what happened to Belle's mother, and all that other stuff. And for what it is, it's fine, just not perfect. And I don't. And although I like Emma Watson as an actress, I wouldn't exactly say she would have been my first choice to play Belle, even though she can speak fluent French. But yeah, that's just me. I've not seen Christopher Robin. I've heard that is a remake, but to me it just comes across as a sort of biopic that just happens to feature Pooh and the gang in there somewhere. I've not seen it, so I can't really critique or judge it. So yeah. Dumbo, that's another one that came out during the war, and this is also historically Disney's shortest feature film at only 64 minutes, something like that. And that's another one that Tim Burton worked on. And yes, they did expand on it, and it did feel like it was trying to do its own thing with a lot of different elements and so forth in there. But honestly, I just don't remember that much from it. It had the theme in it, it had Dumbo in there, it didn't have the little mouse thing, and also decided not to use the sort of racial stereotypical song, and the birds. And I think it did have the pink elephant sequence, if I remember correctly, but yeah, it wasn't the most memorable film, I will admit, so yeah. Next, Aladdin. So... well, first of all, right off the bat, I should make it clear. I do like Will Smith as an actor. I do like him as a rapper. What I don't like about him is the way he just decides to randomly hit Chris Rock. I don't like Chris Rock personally as a comedian, but comedians, it's just how they go about life. They just can't get through life without making a joke somewhere. So you can't exactly blame him for making the joke. Yes, it was a terrible joke about Will Smith's wife, but it's Chris Rock. He's going to make these sort of controversial jokes. So yeah. Anyway, enough about that. Aladdin, copy and paste of the original film, which was a very good animated film, I must say. They didn't follow the original story too well, but they did follow it, yes, but they decided to do their own take on it, which I think was a good take. And much of the live action film does feel like a copy and paste. The only things I would say that are different are obviously the genie, which Will Smith does his own take on and actually puts a bit of rapping in there, which I think is good. I don't like Jafar in a new one. Jafar is the sort of villain that, is a typical Disney film that has a flair for the dramatic and is much like the sort of male equivalent to Maleficent in every way. Um, and he is a villain you do remember quite well. You don't remember him too much in the live action remake, unfortunately, because, well, I'm just assuming, I don't know for sure, but he's not that good in the new one because he just sounds like a creep and just very, very snake-like, which is kind of funny because the original Jafar turns into a snake in the original one. So yeah, I just don't like the new one. Let's just leave it at that. It's just creepy and arseholey, like, so yeah. Lion King. This now, anybody who knows me well knows that The Lion King is my all-time favorite film. Period. I really enjoy it as a film. I think it's a great film with lots of musical numbers, very colourful looking, and it's not often that you see many animated films featuring animals that's actually really good. I mean, there are loads of them out there, sure, but none such that are such iconic as Lion King. Most of the ones that came sort of around then or after then have been either underrated or just forgotten about. So yeah, so the Lion King remake, a copy and paste again, and I don't like it. I do like some of the new takes on the musical numbers, but I don't like Scar because he doesn't sing "Be Prepared" like Jeremy Irons does, and Jim Cummings because he had to step in when Jeremy Irons lost his voice, and I don't like the looks of the animals. Yes, it's meant to be a more realistic take on Lion King and all that, but they just look dreary looking, and the animals just don't show any emotions. I mean, anybody who's seen a David Attenborough documentary will know that the animals are able to show emotions, and clearly the filmmakers didn't think that, okay, maybe they can show emotions. So I don't know what went on there, but it's kind of, in a way, kind of sort of reassuring to know that Jon Favreau wasn't too keen on making the remake, because apparently he had nightmares about making it because he just didn't know if he would make it good or not. But it ended up being what it is. So yeah. Next, I forgot the Lady and the Tramp had a remake. Yeah, that one fell off the radar. That one is a Disney Plus exclusive and probably will stay as a Disney Plus exclusive. I think it does a bit better with emotion, with giving animals emotions, but it's still not great. And I do like the original more because it's iconic, and it's not iconic even though there's that Siamese cat thing and that bit about the rats and all that, but it's still an iconic film all the same. So yeah. Right, Mulan, the one Disney remake that fell under the Premier Access thing, which of course caused a lot of controversy, because they wanted to release it during the lockdowns and not everywhere had their cinemas open at the time. So that's fair enough on Disney's part, but you don't break contracts with people. That's not a good idea. Anyway, I love the original Mulan film. I think it's a fantastic film that's got a lot of great colourful animation, lots of fantastic battle sequences. I especially like the bit where they're at the mountain and there's that big avalanche, which I think is a really fantastic sequence. And I like the comedy in it. And I just think it's an overall good film. One of the few times where they actually where the Disney princess is actually strong enough to be her own thing and not be like, oh, I need help, save me. Yeah, anyway, the remake, I think it was good for them to do their own take on it, because it's not exactly a copy and paste. It's more of a, okay, you've got this license, you've got this film, do your own take on it, so away you go. And yeah, kudos to them for doing their own take, but it still wasn't a good film to me. Yeah, because I was expecting to hear at least more musical numbers than the actual one than the one that most people know as the sort of princess one, and yeah. Moving on. So the last one that's been released recently is Pinocchio. The original Pinocchio, as everyone knows, is the second animated feature that Disney made. One that Walt Disney himself worked on a great deal, and most people really enjoyed that. The remake feels like a copy and paste of the original film, and it just wasn't great. Great that they had Pinocchio looking like Pinocchio, and great that they had a director like Robert Zemeckis work on it. He's a big technology buff, but overall it just didn't work. But I'm kind of glad it did come out in a year where there was like more than one version of Pinocchio that was being released. Like there was the Guillermo del Toro one, which was the best one of the three, which won a lot of awards, and the other one that I've not seen, which it's probably best I don't, because it has nothing to do with the story at all. So yeah, that's all the films that have been released, and I know there's a few on the way, so I may as well share my thoughts on the original films and just say what I think they should or shouldn't do with the remake if they do go ahead with it. So first up is Peter Pan. Peter Pan is not one of my favourite animated Disney films, but I will acknowledge that it does have a lot of iconic moments, and it's also one of those films that has that iconic moment of Tinkerbell, because Tinkerbell since then has been used to do the thing around the castle. So yeah, enough said about that. I don't think I'll see the remake, but we'll see. Little Mermaid, the one that people have been hyped about. I enjoyed that when I first saw it. It's actually the only Disney Renaissance film I didn't actually see properly until much later on in life, and I do enjoy it. I think Ursula is great, especially as she sounds like a drag queen. And I think if they decided to stick with the drag queen approach, even though she was voiced by someone who's female, then maybe they would have done the drag queen for her in the remake. Fortunately, they've got Melissa McCarthy instead. And looking at the trailers, it just looks like it's going to be another copy and paste remake film, and Sebastian as a crab just looks like a crab, and a creepy crab. And I can know creepy when I see it, so yeah. They're doing a Snow White remake. Okay. Snow White, even though it's like their first animated feature film, it feels, when you watch it later on in life, it just kind of feels like a generic princess film, where the princess gets into trouble and yada yada yada. Prince goes to save her, and the dwarves are there and all that, and yeah, it's just not great. But if they do go ahead with that, I hope that they do cast like dwarf actors, not do CGI and leave it there, because there's a lot of dwarf actors out there, and Warwick Davis being one of them, who I've met in person, who's a lovely guy. So yeah, I hope they do take that into consideration. Let's see. They're doing a Mufasa film. Don't know why. Hercules. Yep, really enjoyed the Hercules film. It was definitely a musical film, with a sort of choir, with a gospel sort of choir and a Las Vegas feel and all that. It kind of felt like a Superman origin story in a way, but that's okay. It doesn't really follow the Greek mythology story as such, but I'd say that's a good thing, because Disney could adapt that the best way they can, but it wouldn't be considered a film that's tailored to families, But I still enjoy it, and the remake, I'm not sure if it will be good, and the fact that they've got Guy Ritchie directing, who did Aladdin's kind of a worrying thing for me, but that's just me. Let's see what else. We've got an Aladdin sequel on the way, don't know why. A Jungle Book sequel on the way. Okay. Hunchback of Notre Dame. Ah, yes, Hunchback of Notre Dame. The one Disney film that, no matter how much work they did to sort of change it so it's not too dark or dramatic or whatever, it's still their darkest film ever. I mean, I love Hellfire, the song. I love all the characters in there, and I just love that they were very respectful to how Quasimodo looked. I really enjoyed that film, and if they do a remake, they do need to be very careful. I mean, I heard last I checked, I heard Josh Gad was involved in it, and he may end up playing Quasimodo for all we know. But yeah, I hope it goes well for that one because it is a sort of very difficult, challenging film to do. So yeah, right. Oh, there's a sequel away, a Tinkerbell film. Not sure if the Tinkerbell film will be related to the Tinkerbell TV series, but we'll see. Sword and Stone. Ah, yes, another film that usually is left off the radar. It's very underrated. The most people remember of that film is Merlin, who appears in other Disney stuff, particularly Kingdom Hearts and other things. And yeah, it's a good film though. Good film. The duel between the witch and Merlin is pretty good. Madam Mim, I think her name is. And yeah, it's one of those films that you should watch, but at the same time, it could be. It's but at the same time you could just skip it and be okay. So yeah, but please don't, because it's still good. Robin Hood. They're doing a Robin Hood remake. Wonder how that'll work, because the Robin Hood film that Disney made was a sort of anthropomorphic animal film. Not the first one not the first or last one they did, because obviously we got Zootopia, which is what Zootopia is called here in the UK, and some other stuff. I forget what the other ones are called, but I'm sure there's more. But anyway, if they do that, I hope they don't go the same way as The Lion King did, and it will look a bit weird if they do that, especially with all the characters in costumes. But who knows, maybe they'll actually do an all-human version of it. It wouldn't be the first time a all-human version of Robin Hood's been made. So yeah. What else? Oh, another Aladdin spin-off film. Bambi's getting a remake. Okay. Bambi, a lot of people will know. It's that one where Bambi's mum gets killed. Spoilers! And I thought it was okay. I actually wasn't from what I can remember, I wasn't too traumatised by the whole Bambi's mum being killed. So, yeah. Right, Aristocats. I forgot Aristocats was a thing. That's the one with the talking cats, isn't it? I think. Yes. I remember watching that a lot when I was little. I don't remember too much about it now. I know that it had like talking cats in there, and the butler was the main bad guy who was trying to get rid of the cats, and yeah, and as far as I'm aware, I'm not sure if it was one that Disney worked on himself. Yeah, there's not really much I remember about that, so yeah, moving on. Lilo and Stitch. This one's made the news recently. A Lilo and Stitch remake. And so far, I've not had any issues with what's been revealed about that. The original film I do remember quite well, and I do enjoy it. I love the musical numbers in there, even though the characters don't really sing much as far as I can remember. I love the Stitch character, I love the Lilo character, and I like this how the marketing was basically, let's just bring all those iconic moments from the animated films together and just make it, and just throw Stitch in there, and yeah. Great way to advertise for sure. Just do a breakable fall moment and all that. So yeah, great. And then there's this last one, Moana. Moana's the most recent Disney film that's got a remake on the way, and I did enjoy it. I think Dwayne Johnson did well. I think whoever was the voice of Moana can't pronounce the name very well, did well. And yeah, I think that's all I can say about that. Let's see if there's any others that I've missed out. Oh yeah, so yeah, there's Black Cauldron, which is in limbo. A very underrated Disney film, and the only animated film, as far as I know, to still be released on DVD instead of Blu-ray. I don't really remember much from it. It is one of those. It is probably the first and only Disney film that most people have forgotten about, but there's still some fans out there, so it's kind of getting a cult following in that sense. There's also talk about a Princess and the Frog film. So before that film, I did actually play a PC game, which was basically the story of Princess and the Frog. Her princess meets this frog. They have a thing going on, and they kiss. The frog turns into a prince, and yada yada yada. And Disney's take is different, of course, because it's Disney. They want to do their own take, and I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that film, and I think it's one of those few films where it's sort of trying to be diverse. Like, it's like that particular film had a lot of casts that are of a sort of different race. I hope that's the politically correct way of saying that in there. And it's a good film, definitely. Okay, is there any others I'm missing? Oh yeah, a bit about Pocahontas. Now, Pocahontas is one that's not going to be remade anytime soon because of the sort of cultural sensibility and modern sensibilities, which is fair enough. That film was the weakest of the Disney Renaissance films because it was again Disney doing their own take, but just changing too much. Like Governor Radcliffe is basically a mix of different characters, and he's basically the main villain. And if they were to do a more accurate portrayal of it, it just wouldn't play out the same way. So yeah, let's talk about that better. And I'd like to also give an honourable mention to Pete's Dragon. I've not seen the original film properly, and the remake is not really a remake, it's more of a name-only sort of film, so it's a similar story as far as I know, but it's just name-only. I don't remember the fact that I remember it makes out that I do remember it well, but to be honest, I don't remember it all that well. Just that it exists. So yeah, that's my thoughts on all the different remakes and the ones that are released and the ones that are coming soon or not ever going to come. So yeah, and overall, I think most are just unnecessary because lots of the new generation still likes watching the original animated stuff, just like most of us do. And that's all I have to say on it. So yeah, and I hope in the future Disney listen to the fans more and actually make remakes for the films that fans want, not remakes because they need money. They definitely don't need money. They've got a lot of companies under their belt now making money. So if they want to make original live action stuff, they should do so. I know a lot of us are still waiting for the next Tron film. I don't know when that will be. But yeah. That's all I've got to say on that. One more thing. Not Disney related, but I know How to Train Your Dragon's getting a live action remake. I hope that does well. I think it can work in live action, but I hope they just don't do a copy and paste and don't do all the problems that Disney have done. So yeah. Okay, enough talking. Thanks so much for watching. Love to hear what you think about the remakes yourself, so leave your thoughts down below in the comments. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And that's it for this vlog. The finale to Hogwarts Legacy will be coming soon. Tomorrow's video will be finishing the story, and then there'll be a couple more videos after that where I'll just wrap up the side quests and other bits. The winner of the Batman Arkham poll was Knight, so that'll be the next game that I'll be playing. And I don't know what I'll be playing after that, because I know that's considered to many to be the finale of the Arkham saga, even though we're getting Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League soon at some point. And yeah, there's lots of other stuff on the way too, so hope you look forward to that. And that's it. Enough talking. I'm going to go recover from this cold that I've got at the moment. So yeah. Okay. Bye bye. Peace.